This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 206 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. We're gonna go hunting for Sasquatch. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you joined us. Let's start off like we do every week on the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Bethlehem. Sorry.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
Brittany's forgot where she lived.
I did.
This is Rachel in Annapolis, Indiana. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Chrissy is working, so she will be bowing out this week, making those almighty dollars. But that being said, we are not just the three of us. We have two, count them, two guests this week. One is a returning guest, my husband, Chauncey.
I'm here again.
And joining us for the first time, and hopefully not his only, is Chauncey's friend, and my friend too, but he's known Chauncey a lot longer, so that relationship goes way back. But Chauncey and I's friend, Matt Schultz.
Nice to be here.
And people are probably like, okay, what the heck is going on? So,
listeners, sit right back.
So we're going to tell you a story. So, in the spirit of Halloween, because as you're recording this Halloween, this is day after tomorrow, we thought we would do an in-depth look at a movie in the spirit of the season. But no offense. Yeah, no offense to Chauncey and Matt, but you're outnumbered when it comes to those who like Halloween and Friday the 13th and those type of movies. We don't. So we thought, well, monster movies, they can be Halloween appropriate. You go to a haunted house and you see things like the Wolfman and Frankenstein's monster and that sort of thing. Because Chauncey has really wanted for someone to take this particular movie and give it its light, time in the sun, we are going to be talking about a movie that Chauncey and Matt made back when Chauncey was an undergrad in college, called A Weekend Assignment. And
I think Matt at the time was also in college. Well, he was at Lincoln Tech studying mechanics.
Well, you were actually in you were in school in informatics, so so it was essentially a student film about two guys, one of them played by Matt, who go out on a wacky adventure looking for Bigfoot.
And chaos ensues.
So,
I will never look at tractors and motorcycles, or not motorcycles, lawnmowers, the same way again.
Yeah. So before we get into the actual plot of the movie, Chauncey and Matt, why don't you give us a bit more backstory on how Weekend Assignment came about?
Sure. Weekend Assignment mostly was like, it started out as he moved to Indy prior to him starting school, and Taylor, my brother, also lived in the same place. We were all three in a 1-bedroom apartment, basically living on top of each other. And we basically had no money to go do anything. So we just played on the internet, and we just laughed about just funny stories and people. And after a while we started making inside jokes about people, we'd seen the lady at the Walmart that smacking the kids around and stuff like that. Hey, we just started laughing about that stuff. So at some point, I just decided to start writing down all these characters.
Yeah, and then Chauncey kind of came up with a lot of different characters, and we kind of threw together kind of what we wanted to put into the film, and then we kind of just had this one session where we kind of all got together, and pretty much I got up and started improvising a lot of what came out into the film.
That's very awesome. Oh, to be a fly on the wall then.
What jokes to put in, what jokes to cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I still have my document from a while back of us, like we were just a stream of consciousness writing out all these characters and situations that we wanted to jam into a story.
Yeah, and then oh yeah, it was a good time.
The music was good. I loved the music.
Same.
Yeah, thanks.
Well,
The music actually, what's funny is like prior to the movie, Taylor and we had a recording studio in my like bedroom back in high school and early college, and we recorded several of the songs, and then like we went out, and there was one of my friends that I had played in a band with named Adam Gross. He's just a really talented musician. His band Ammo Joy kind of permeates the movie, and then one of the songs is made by a college student named Aaron Gallimore that I was going to school with, that I just like gave him $100 and asked him over the summer to make me a anthem for the movie about Sasquatch, and he and his dad put together that main song, the Skunk Ape song. So that actually is an original tune for Weekend Assignment.
Cool.
Yeah. So let's jump right into the plot here. So the opening of the film is a lot of your opening credits. Chauncey's disclaimer, which I love at the end, it says, "This is comedy, people. Try to enjoy it."
I love that bit of.
Yep.
So you get your opening credits. Chauncey Frend original. Matt gets the writer's credit for this, as far as the film is concerned. Written by Matt Schultz, whether he wants it or not. It is in print. There's no taking it back. So we open with kind of our, I guess, narrator at the NSWA, which is the National Sasquatch Watchers Association.
No, of America.
No, that's of America. And we meet Ranger Rick Johnson. So, and you'll find out very quickly that everybody in this movie who makes an appearance is either a family member or a friend, and I know most of these people now. It's taken a while to meet most of them. But
Ranger Rick Johnson was played by Mike Anthony. He was Farm Bureau Insurance, like the downtown Indianapolis, like the big Farm Bureau Insurance building. He was their only video guy that they had, and he just decided one day to show me his studio down there. And I'm like, "You really look like, like a character that'd be perfect for this movie I'm writing as a forest ranger." And I'm like, "Would you be in it?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And we filmed it in his green screen studio, like on a weekend.
Nice.
Yeah, the perfect voice for it.
He did.
Yeah. So he kind of tells us that we're about to hear a crazy story about one of the NSWA's members, and we are introduced to Robert, or Rob, played by another friend, Sean.
Matt, you want to give a little backstory on Robert Williams, like how that whole character came
how
along?
the character came about?
Yeah.
So this was Robert Williams was based off of a character. Was based off a friend of my brother when he was younger. He was a young, troublesome young lad who like a lot of interesting adventures, and some of these things actually, some of the events actually took place, like the not spoiler alert, I guess, but a lot of the events were actually based off of what he did, and burning down a fort was one of them.
Oh, oh boy.
Oh.
This
So,
I remember like seeing this kid every once in a while when I would be over at Matt's house as a kid, and like he would visit, and like things would go from like 0 to 10 real quick as far as like how intense he got. It was like, whoa, this guy, who is this guy?
So from not in trouble to big time trouble.
Yeah. Or, he had to be the main character of the movie.
Yes.
yeah.
Sense.
Yeah. Well, he starts out fairly calm, although that it doesn't take much, because we open with the movie, with our first time seeing Robert sitting at a park bench, and he spots something in the distance, looks through his binoculars, picks up some of his stuff, takes off after it, but it's already gone. And all he has is a brief glance of something that may have been a Bigfoot and his own shoe covered in poop. He's rather disappointed that he missed out. So,
Will humor just, I don't know. It's too easy.
Yeah, yeah. We should probably preface this that this movie is rated PG-13 for the most part. Most of the comedy is fairly innocuous. There's a little bit of language and some butt cracks, but for the most part, it's. I've seen more of Chauncey's friends and family's butt cracks than one person needs to see in their lifetime. It's a good thing I like you all. But not to be deterred, Robert crosses the street and goes and stands outside this kind of nondescript, maybe medical office type building. And this old lady turns up in a van
and thinks he's the valet
and asks if he's the valet. That would be that would be Chauncey's grandmother. That's Bama. Rob convinces her that he's the valet, takes her keys, and takes off with her van.
Little Grand Theft Auto.
Yep. But that's when we hear the Skunk Ape song comes on the radio. So
I think it's
actually
funny
that was one of my.
Go ahead.
I said actually one of my favorite shots of the whole movie was in that scene, and
because the fire department showed up.
Well, it wasn't that. It was actually when he takes off, we get the shot underneath the seat, and all the junk comes flying back.
Yeah.
It just makes me laugh hilariously.
Yeah,
but yes,
like
the fire
development. It's character development and scene development all in one little quick shot. It's like that lady just like she just didn't take care of her car, and this guy Rob, he's stealing a car. So we know where we're at here. We're in like middle of nowhere USA.
Yeah. You got to tell the fire department story though.
Yeah. So we only had one smoke bomb. Actually, we only could budget one smoke bomb to use there. We had to use the other one for when the car crashed later in the movie, and we only had two. And like, I actually had my mom go pick up smoke bombs at like at the fireworks store, and like meet us there with Bama, my grandma, and I was like, we set it up on the back of like the van, and I'm trying to hurry up and film this, and I'm running from shooting shots on the outside to shooting shots on the inside before the smoke bomb burned out. And then right after I get my last shot of it driving around, I get out and there's the fire department. They were just driving by and saw us out there with this van and all the smoke coming out of it. And then we just waved them off. We just like, it's fine, we're filming a movie, and they just kept driving. They didn't even.
There's nothing to see here.
Well, they just probably like, okay, yeah, we're in Osceola, Indiana. It's just about what it is.
Oh.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. So after Grand Theft Auto, Rob takes off to the local university, which was that was IU South Bend in real life.
Yep. IU South Bend.
Yeah. And pulls into a handicap parking space and tapes a really bad looking counterfeit tag to the rear.
I don't know why, but that just had me bust out laughing when I saw that. I was
Taylor, my brother, and I, we always used to joke around, like, like when mom would pull up to the store and there'd be no parking spots, we'd be like, just pull in the handicap spot and we'll limp in, like we get away with it. And like, just dumb little kids. And then like that was something that we thought about when we were writing the movie. It turned into like, oh no, let's just do like a crappy handicap tab that was done with a pen.
So Robert takes off after parking, and we cut to a classroom where we meet Carl, played by Matt, in class listening to his teacher drone on, and the teacher's played by Chauncey's dad, my father-in-law. And we find out from our narrator that Carl is in college studying to become a forest ranger.
Oh,
yeah. So we see Rob sneak into a room next door and smacks his back on the door to get Carl's attention. Pisses Carl off. Then he pulls out a doctor's stethoscope, knocks it into the door so that he could hear what the teacher is saying, and here's Carl's homework is to go out and document some wildlife.
I wanted to mention the design of Robert Williamer, like as far as like what he looked like, because like the whole point was he should stick out, if he's in a crowd in terms of the movies. And I was thinking we could just use that red coat as kind of like the beacon, like where he is because he's got that bright red coat, and then cowboy hat just to like communicate that he's somewhat of a, he's an independent kind of guy. And then the fact that his backpack, the fact that he's a weirdo though, is that his backpack is a World War II GI backpack. That's an actual one from that was left over from military surplus. And then the stethoscope in there just because it's like, why not? He's a weirdo,
Yeah.
What we originally wanted to do was we wanted to get like a kid's spy kit, like he was gonna have like this little. He was gonna be going through like all these different little spy gadgets that were obviously kids' toys and.
Oh, I've never heard that before. That's funny.
No, it was.
I literally just forgot the whole thing, man. I bet you if I went back through my notes that's in there, I forgot that was the original intent.
Yeah, that was the original idea, but then it just was like, oh, we could just use a stethoscope. That'll get the point across.
So now was Rob later, was he supposed to be auditing the class and didn't go in?
That would have been funny too. Write that down for the sequel. We're gonna talk about a potential sequel here when we get later. So class is dismissed, and the class again is full of friends and family, including Taylor, Chauncey's brother, who will pop up a lot.
Real quick, if you look at Taylor during that scene, like when he gets up and he's walking, he's acting all like real sure of himself, like kind of cocky. He's basing that off of the movie Napoleon Dynamite. There was a guy named Don in the movie that was always like, like flicking his shirt and like he really into himself. So Taylor had that in his head, and that's exactly what he's trying to replicate there.
Carl leaves after class is dismissed. Rob takes after him. And again, by Ranger Rick, we learn that Rob and Carl have been friends for a very long time, but Rob tends to take things over the top, and that's when we get the flashback of them as boys playing like army or something in the backyard, and Rob sets their playhouse slash cabin thing that they were playing on fire with a Molotov cocktail.
Obviously, that's what kids play with these days.
Oh yes.
And has access to.
Yeah. Well, I love their faces because if you have the DVD, you get it's got the special features on, include the behind the scenes stuff, and you've got Chauncey trying to be like, okay, act like you're scared, and the one kid's like smiling the entire time.
I get a Molotov cocktail. This is fun.
Yeah.
What's funny too with the pyrotechnic, like Matt and I, like we're trying to figure out how we could remotely set off an explosion. And nowadays, like I'm smart enough and know enough about electronics, I could have just wired up something simple. But in those days, like the only thing we could think of was to go buy an Estes rocket kit, like from a hobby store where you would launch rockets. So like that's like a 9-volt battery rocket charge, and then we turned the rocket straight down, but then locked it into position, so it just exploded into a thing full of gasoline. Like a bucket full of gasoline with our Estes rocket engine. I thought that was pretty clever that we did that.
And it was nice that the bucket was also shaped, so it had a shape charge to it, so it kind of went up and out.
Yeah, it made a little tiny little mushroom cloud. Nice effect. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
The kids are funny, but I love that once he sets it on fire, we cut to one of their mom, air quotes mom, played by our friend Christy, and she's like, boys, time for yogurt. And she's thing on fire, and she's like, what the F? Like, there go the boys setting stuff on fire again. So we come back to present day. Rob and Carl are walking and talking about Carl's homework assignment, and Rob's trying to convince him that they should go and track Bigfoot, and Rob then spray paints the word Bigfoot on the side of the van.
What are you doing with that?
Yeah. I love that too. His Matt's all like, why'd you spray paint your car? And he's like, I don't know.
Just
You
go
know,
with
that's
it.
the character of like the original guy that we based Robert Williams on. He would do like really bizarre stuff like that to get his point across, and we'd be like, why did you do that? And be like, I don't know.
So
Wait, I do have a really funny behind the scenes story with that van. So
yeah.
we had to shoot that with that van the next day at the Walmart, and like we had the night before we shot there in front of Katie and Christie's house with the spray paint, and that's all that is hairspray paint, so you could wipe it off and all that.
Okay.
And yeah, so like that was my parents' van, and it was on the outs. I mean, they were going to get rid of it here soon, so they didn't really care what we did too much as long as it still worked. And we, I that night forgot to clean it off, and I went to go like jogging at this park. Actually, it was the next morning. I went jogging at the park next. I drove that van over to the park, and I'm the only one there. And all of a sudden, the police officer comes with his lights on, and I'm like, "What in the world?" He stopped jogging, and he said, "Can you explain the spray paint?" And I said, "Oh yeah, sorry, we're filming a movie. I can go get my laptop and show it to you if you can see. It's not graffiti." And he said they were having problems with people doing graffiti in the park, and he was suspecting me of like being one of the graffiti artists.
You delinquent.
Way to go,
'Cause
Charles.
I was surprised he didn't have a police visit with a smoke bomb instead of the fire department.
Right. I don't know. I think it's just kind of the course up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just Osceola.
Yeah. Nothing to see here.
Nope.
Group filming something.
Yeah. So we get to the next day, and we get into one of my favorite sequences of the entire movie. Rob says that they need to go buy supplies before they can go do anything. So they head off to Walmart's.
Yep.
And if you look carefully when they're talking about needing supplies, there's a nice cameo of one of Matt's brother's butts.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hanks.
yes. So we get to Walmart's, and Rob goes in. Carl stays out in the van, and we cut to a woman who obviously has spotted the guys and needs to a touch up her face using a marker and a flip phone.
Oh my goodness.
So she approaches Carl and asks if Robert is with her, because she swears she just saw him, and he's like, yeah, he's inside. She's like, are you his friend or something? She's like, you could say I'm his mistress. So Carl and
that character, Matt, you have to tell. You don't necessarily give names, but tell how he wrote Katie's character.
She was based off of pretty much a carbon copy rather than based off of a girl that was in my beginning theater class, who was very over dramatic in everything that she did, including deciding to be. We had to draw like numbers and act like an animal, and without saying what you specifically were. And she comes up and does this, like, I don't know, runway model, try to be like a runway model, walk up and then pose, and then she gives this bellowing,
Oh boy.
Everybody's,
So everyone's looking at each other.
like, what the heck? So then people just start shooting out things that start with a P. What are you, a penguin? No! What are you, a pigeon? No! We give up. What the hell are you? A peacock! So the character was based very much off of her, because she was a very overdramatic and interesting person that would do these sort of things.
oh my.
A natural fit. Believe me.
Yeah. So she gets invited along. Carl invites her along, and she's very excited. But she says first they need to summon the almighty tree fairy princess to help them on their quest. And she'll need 4 cups of vinegar, a mashed potato, a pair of racy thong underwear, and 7.5 gallons of Pop Rocks, orange flavored. At that point, yeah. At that point, Carl decides to get back in the van, and we get some people watching, including a woman smacking her kids, and they ask for a candy bar, a woman who yells at her baby and then throws it in her vehicle, various rednecky types, pushing carts very, roughly, not caring where they go. And finally, Robert comes back half an hour later with nothing but a bag of chips.
Yeah.
Because he was getting to the worm level on the only remaining Contra arcade game in the area.
Yeah.
So then they have to head to the hardware store, and somewhere in between Rob getting back to the van and then leaving for the hardware store, Carl and Rob have switched seats in the van.
What are you gonna do?
Continuity doesn't mean anything.
Rachel pointed that out to me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you're right." I'm like, "It did span a couple different weeks of filming." So
Yeah.
Long traffic stop. They got bored, so they quick raced around the van.
Yeah.
any fire drill.
Yep.
That works. Headcanon. There we go.
Yep.
Fixed. It's been retconned. So, so the hardware store, we get some more crazy characters in the area, including the crazy guy at the cash register, again played by one of Matt's brothers. That would be Jake. A fighting couple, the double bag lady, who is nothing like that in real life. And our first cameo of our director. Pulling a Hitchcock, appearing in his own film.
Well, see, I was actually in a Hitchcock class while filming this movie, and that was one of the things that they said was like, "Oh, yeah, he's in every one of his films." I go, "Well, that's kind of cool." I said, "If I start making films like this, I think I want to get beat up in every single one of my films." I haven't made another film yet, so we'll have to see if I continue that.
Yeah. You're a regular Peter Jackson there, honey.
Yeah, that was one of those scenes that I wish we had like a great set and things like that where it could have turned out. It would have been so much more funny with how we wanted to do the insulation scene with fire extinguishers and paramedics coming in to wheel the guy out.
Yeah, it was written to be like a classic background Simpsons sort of joke, like where, like the main characters are up front doing something pretty mundane, but in the background just all hell's breaking loose, and
and they're totally oblivious.
Yeah, they're oblivious and just walk out. So yeah.
We do end up with an accidental cameo though, while Pam is asking Jake to double bag her purchase. Double bag it, please. Double time. If you look behind her, you can see it's Carl, right?
Yeah.
Carl.
Yeah.
Carl Johnson.
Yeah, look, like peeking his head around the door, watching what's going on. So,
for Holly and Brittany, the Carl in the background there, he's like kind of a legend in our kind of circle of friends, and Carl was the reason why we named Matt Schultz's character Carl, and he's just kind of an outdoorsman kind of guy, and he's just a really funny person. But the last name for Carl Patterson, Matt Schultz's, or his character's last name, was actually named after a Vietnam veteran I worked with at Harbor Freight at a hardware store. Kind of like the reason we filmed even in a hardware store location. This guy, I mean, he told me stories about Vietnam, and he treated customers in a very bizarre way that I had to write something about him in this movie.
Nice.
Yeah, someone who has also worked in a hardware store. The truth is stranger than fiction. So.
Oh my God.
So the guys find what they need, and Rob puts it in his jacket and says it's on leeway. Instead of paying for it. But Jake's too oblivious because at this point Chauncey's on the ground itching and scratching because he got hit with the insulation. And then we get one of my favorite lines that we say all of the time, because this is again based on real life. They get back in the van, and Rob tells Carl to stick it in like this kind of drawer type thing in the center of the dash of the van, and he opens it up, and it's full of Taco Bell sauce packets.
Yeah,
like to the brim. And Rob says one of my favorite lines that we say all the time. He goes, "Sweet, I could use those in a recipe."
Nice.
And the sad thing is that still happens in Chauncey's car.
This is actually an inside joke, and it's actually more of a funny dig at my mom. So, like, every time we got in my mom's car, especially as kids, her driving us around, She just have like ketchup packets and taco packets, everything just filled to the brim because she's got to hold on to it all. And I put that scene in the movie basically because of her, and that's her van. That when we showed the premiere of this, and it got to that shot, she had no idea that was in there, and she was the only one in the theater just heard busting out laughing.
But whenever we go to Taco Bell and they ask if we want sauce, Chauncey always asks for some. And at least the Taco Bell near us, they're quite generous with the sauce and the napkins.
Yeah.
So we always end up with way more than what we actually need.
Let's give you a whole heaping handful, and here's
exactly
20 napkins.
Exactly.
Same in my neck of the woods too. Yep.
So he shoves them in the spot in his car, and then they start to pile up, and he'll eventually bring him to the house, and he actually does use them in recipes. Make something random for dinner. It's not even remotely Mexican related, and he's pulling out a Taco Bell sauce packet out of the fridge and squeezing it on his food.
It's a versatile stuff.
Forget ketchup. Taco Bell sauce.
Hey, check out my spaghetti sauce here. Oh, the apple fire sauce.
So the guys take off, and they're driving down the road, and a vehicle coming the other direction has their brights on in the daytime. By the way, this is daytime. Somehow, someone having their brights on in the daytime is still distracting enough that they end up crashing the van into a tree. And the smoke is blowing the wrong direction.
Like, that was a rough shot, so that's why it had to be shot in the daytime.
Yeah.
But like, the thing about it was, we actually had planned, because in Osceola, Indiana, going back to that town I've talked about it a few times, is you would drive around, even to this day, you drive around, and there's like probably half a dozen cars in any direction that you'll drive that are like on the side of the road that just say $100 or best offer. Okay. And we were unable to find one of these when we were filming the movie just because it was rushed. But that was the plan originally. Is there's a shot later in the movie where the guy's outside shooting the shotgun at Robert Williams' grandparents, and there's a pond back there. And the original plan in the script was to buy $100 car and pay for like a wrecker to come in the same day as the shooting, and then have them crash into the pond and then have it pulled out. But it was way too ambitious, and it would have been really dangerous. We didn't do it. But so that's what you got, was a daytime shot of the brights on a car.
So they have to abandon the van, but that's okay because it was free anyway. And they take off to Rob's grandparents' house because the house is nearby. So we meet Rob's grandma and grandpa. Grandma is blind as a cave salamander, but one hell of a good cook.
I love it.
And then we meet Grandpa, who goes on this rant about the Japs and the Chinese, and I'm in no way trying to sound racist. It's written so that he sounds racist. So, but he goes on this like racist rant, and
sorry about the alarm. I was warming up some egg rolls.
Way to go, Chauncey.
And then Rob says he's going to go into the kitchen to get some cookies. Ask Grandpa if he wants anything. He's like, oh yeah, ask her. She'll heat me up some egg rolls. And what's funny is he's sitting there reading a newspaper, but he actually has his script in the newspaper, so he's reading his lines, which is why he never looks up.
If you look really closely at the actor, that's Rob Williams, the actor Sean Wachowski, who's playing Rob Williams, one of my friends from Boy Scouts, and his dad plays the grandpa, but that we always joked with him. His name's Larry, and we always joked with Larry that he looked just like Jim Varney, who played Ernest P. Worth.
It
I
does.
really wish he would have done some sort of funny like cutaway of him in the Ernest get up or something, but it really
What I
fitted.
mean, Vern? So the guys go to sleep. They wake up the next day to Grandpa shooting something in the backyard while Grandma cheers him on. What's he supposed to be shooting at?
The idea was there was going to be some ultralights flying over the house, and he was going to be up shooting at the ultralights, and then you're going to hear like the noise of the engine cutting out, and then a big industrial-sized fan just come crashing down wrong.
Oh.
Yeah, it was supposed to be just like a shower of like mechanical parts and parachutes and like helmets and like skydivers flying, and he's just in the backyard shooting them down. Because why'd you do that? I don't know.
I love that when he's shooting though, and she's cheering, and like their dog, like the dachshund, comes running across the lawn, like oblivious to anything that's going on.
I think I put her in the credits. That's Emily. I think it says Emily the Dotson or Emily the dog in the credits too.
Yeah. Not the first dog cameo we're gonna get either. Or it's the first dog cameo, not the last dog cameo we're gonna get. Carl goes outside to see what's going on because the shooter woke him up, and Grandma says something about how now the mopping is done. Would you like a shower? And tosses the dirty mop water on him. And I love your face, Matt.
She caught me by surprise because I thought that at that point we were just practicing to do the shoot, and she just totally doused me and caught me by surprise, and that was a legitimate reaction to it.
Nice.
It's like Die Hard.
I even told her we were practicing. I was like, I flat out told her, I was like, don't dump it on him quite yet because we still got to do the shot. And I luckily was filming, otherwise Matt would have been soaking wet for the shot.
That's awesome. I just love that you went with it. You stayed in character. You're just like, why? The boys take off after a somewhat loving goodbye from Grandma. Again, some not so PC jokes that wouldn't fly these days. Gotta remember this was made in a different time. So the boys take off walking, and they discuss Rob's relationship with Melissa, the woman from the Walmart's scene earlier, and Rob's like, "Great, she calls me her level 38 sorcerer." I love how Sean's voice just cracks a little when he said that. And they talk about how Rob's glad that she wasn't able to come on their trip because she had a craft show, because she makes ashtrays out of bull testicles and walking sticks out of bull penises. Which is an actual thing.
Yes.
There's actually a backstory there's a backstory to this. And we didn't just arbitrarily say that just because it's toilet humor, but like the whole thing was that Matt and I, we still kind of to this day do this, where we try to get each other to laugh to the point where we're like, okay, I'm done. I'm laughing way too hard by finding random things on eBay and sending them to each other. And that was one of the things that Matt found on eBay, and we were just busting out laughing. We're like, we have to put that in the script.
Like, why would you make something out of that? Why?
Yeah. Or every now and again you get the catalogs. Weirdest things you never knew existed.
Yes.
Bingo. There you go.
Like somehow Sky Mall.
designer.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Coin pouch.
Yeah.
We still do that too. Like when we go out to visit family over like Christmas and stuff. Like if we're just hanging out, or we get, if it snows and we can't really go out and do anything, like we'll get on like Facebook and start like a thread on somebody's wall and just find the most random crap on eBay and just post the links to it. It's like creepy dolls and badly made craft projects. And we'll just, we'll be sitting around just busting a gut watching as people post stuff. So we'll click on it and be like, oh my God. Then we'll,
Before I even knew what Elf on a Shelf was, Matt found some of the creepiest elves on a shelf out there, and we just started busting out laughing at the elf on the shelf. They're not in the movie, but that was just part of eBay junk search.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Then I found out my mom actually had some that they found up here in their attic.
Ooh.
I'm like, what the?
Burn it with fire.
Should I be worried that those eyes are following me as I move?
Probably.
Hey, it came with a Goosebumps book.
Like R.L. Stein ain't got nothing on us. Get me a good internet connection and a bookmark to eBay. The boys on their walk, they end up in Modeckville.
Well, explain to them how we came up with Modeckville.
Modeckville. I don't know.
I have the story. All right. So we kept thinking like they were going to come through this town or come through this area and encounter all these like gangsters and stuff. And what we got to the conclusion was that all of them probably in this town have way too many DUIs, so they can't drive on the road, right? And we at the time were watching YouTube videos of like police pulling guys over on lawnmowers because they were too drunk to drive a car, so they drive their lawnmower to the liquor store. So the entire town is so in bad behavior that they all get around on lawnmowers by default. So they named their town Modeckville, and if you read closely on the sign, it says "growing at rabbit speed."
What's funny is like there are a lot of stories of people doing that, and in fact I think George Jones actually ended up doing that during his lifetime. So he got pulled over on a lawnmower because he was so drunk that he wasn't allowed to drive. So I think he ended up putting in a music video too, referencing it. So they get passed by a guy on a riding mower. And they pass a couple of guys who decide that one guy's cat can definitely kick the other cat's butt. So they decide to settle it like a man and throw the cats in a cardboard box and let them fight it out. No cats were harmed in the filming of this movie.
There were no cats in that box at all.
Yeah.
It was just they were shaking it and made sound effects.
Yeah.
They really sold the idea, though. That was hilarious.
Yeah. And they enter T-Bone's Bar and Bar. T-Bone played by Carl. And they beat Barney, who is played by Chauncey's Uncle Dave. That was not really a much of a stretch for Uncle Dave. That's pretty much Uncle Dave, actually.
How much of that was scripted and how much was ad-libbed?
It was all scripted. Uncle Dave has a script taped to his leg. You could see it on the shots.
Nice.
I never noticed that before.
We noticed that the other day when we were watching it
Yeah, right before he leans back to shake Carl's hand about being a forest ranger, he leans back in his chair and you can see the script is almost fall off his leg.
That's one way to make sure you don't forget your lines.
Yeah. And we get our other dog cameo, Leroy, Barney's dog, played by Piggy, or Piglet, which was one of Chauncey's childhood dogs. Oh, poor Piggy. He's a good sport.
Yeah.
Piggy's no longer with us now, but he'll live on in infamy in Weekend Assignment. After an uncomfortable encounter at T-Bone's bar, the guys take off again. And Rob explains to Carl that he's one of the NSWA's most active member after Carl asks if he's ever actually seen a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And they end up having a confrontation with some of the Mower gang, including T-Bone, and are chased out of the area, essentially. So we get a kind of a traveling montage of them looking for an animal to document with some more music. And this is the Fancy Lizards, right?
Yeah, that's the fancy.
Yeah, which is actually the band of one of our college professors.
Nice.
So we get this montage of them walking around. Sean's wearing like 10 different outfits because he can never keep his costume correct, continuity wise. You see Taylor, Chauncey's brother, rushing back and forth behind Sean in that one shot where he's going on a path in the trees.
That was filmed at a Boy Scout camping area called the Res, and that's a really fun park in Osceola, actually.
Yeah.
That's one of the first places you took me first time I went up there to visit.
Yeah.
I
That trail, I can show you that trail again. It's straight as an arrow, but Taylor is running behind there. Yeah, I don't know who made that, but it's really cool trail.
Yeah. So they meet back up. Both say they didn't find anything to document. Carl saw a squirrel, but it ran off before he could document it. Then we get a cool graphic of kind of a map or topographical map of the Earth. And it goes from one place to another, and we end up going back to T-Bone's, to Barney now sitting at the bar, talking to the bartender, talking about how much he loves zebra cakes.
Yes.
Zebra cakes are pretty good.
Yeah,
They are good.
And then he gets excited as he exclaims, "Big League Grape Chew!"
Yeah.
I love how the bartender smacks his hand away from it.
Yeah.
No one touches my Big League Chew.
Yeah. At this point, the guys are looking for a place to camp for the night and come across the house of one of the Mower gang guys, who's at the kitchen table, just exclaiming very, very loudly how happy he is to have a woman like Bernice who takes care of him and feeds him. And we see this was supposed to be a very large woman in the background in the kitchen making his dinner. It was actually Chauncey with Katie or Christy on your shoulders.
Katie.
Is Katie on your shoulders?
Well, it was not only that. I had like 3 pillows on my shoulders, and then Katie was sitting on top of the pillows, and then Sean's mom made that dress, and it was like, she told me, she's like, this would be like if you had this in a store, this would be like a 7XL, or it's like there's like no human that could fit in that dress. Huge.
Oh, wow.
2 humans and some pillows. They see one of Bernice's dresses hanging out on the laundry line out in the yard, and turn it into a makeshift tent You just have to camp out underneath and it's all thanks to Bernice. One hell of a woman. So it switches to the next day, and we get another cool graphic because that's the sun and moon rising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chauncey did some pretty cool graphics work for this.
Actually, I have to give credit. That was Aaron Gallimore.
Was that all Aaron? Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron's good too.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Aaron's part of the Spark of Madness podcast. So if you caught Chauncey and I on their show a couple weeks ago, Aaron's one of those guys. So
he does all their live production and a lot of their animation and stuff.
Yeah.
He's really good at motion graphics.
He's really good. So we get the next day, and Carl wakes up to a Bigfoot peeing in the woods, right there. And at this point, from here to the end of the movie, that's Jake, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so that's Jake, Matt's brother, playing Bigfoot, and Rob spy rolls out of the woods and knocks the Bigfoot out with a blow dart, which is another cool effect. And Carl is amazed that not only is Bigfoot real, but they've got one. Where did the Bigfoot suit come from?
My mom made it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she made it.
Matt actually has it right now. He's filming another movie with a Bigfoot in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But they realize they need something to take Bigfoot with them. So Rob goes and gets like a wheelbarrow type thing that are near some kids that are playing Bible.
Yes. They're supposed to be Amish kids, is what the idea was, but it pretty much just turned out to be a bunch of kids playing Bible. Yeah.
They have like towels tied around their necks and wearing coffee filters on their heads.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck that was about.
That was the stupid idea, but that was like the whole idea was like living up in Amish country, which is weird. The boys don't wear those, but the girls wear these like bonnets, and they like as kids were like, "Mom, that looks like the same thing you filter coffee with," and she laughed, and so like they became coffee filters. They were just like the bonnets. So like to make them Amish, we put those coffee filters on their heads. Completely wrong, but we were young and stupid.
Yep. Cultural appropriation is wrong, people. So they Rob comes back with the wheelbarrow, and they're talking about how are they gonna get the Bigfoot into the wheelbarrow, and Carl doesn't want to touch it because he's afraid that the Bigfoot's penis might touch him.
It was a floppy
I didn't
one.
know you were talking about that. It could have been like his leg or something.
Yeah, if that was the case, they wouldn't have put the tidy whities on it.
Yeah.
So if you throw a pair of tidy whities on it, I have no idea where they got it from. It's not shown in the movie. Maybe we got it from Bernice. I don't know. And from a distance, they are spotted by T-Bone. T-Bone spotted them with a pair of binoculars. But they realize even with a wheelbarrow, the Bigfoot's heavy. They're going to get exhausted. They're never going to get through Modicville this way. So Rob goes back to T-Bone's bar and steals T-Bone's ride. And the gang comes, the T-Bone and the rest of the Mower gang come bursting out of the bar realize that T-Bone's ride has been taken, and we get the most epic mower chase ever seen in the history of American cinema. With, Chauncey, you have to tell us the story of the tell us the story of the mower chase and where all the mowers came from, because it's actually filmed in 2 different locations. So.
Yeah, I had written the mower chase, and it was really bothering me because I'm like, how in the world are we going to pull this off? And we were trying to count up how many of our dads had lawnmowers that we could all like trailer over to one, like the Schultz's farm, and like film. And like we only had a few for that, so I was like, this is not going to look epic. It's got to be like Dukes of Hazzard epic or Smokey and the Bandit epic. And we were up in along Lakeshore, Michigan, Lake Michigan, and there was a festival in Hart, Michigan, and the Lakeshore Antique Tractor Club was there. And I reached out to them and started talking to them, and they invited me over and showed me this vast collection that this Don Miller owned up there. And I just blankly asked him, I said, hey, I have no budget. I'm filming this kind of corny movie. Can we film something here in the yard with a few tractors? And they had just so happened to be planning a festival, like a tractor enthusiast festival coming up on like within a month. And they're like, if you come up and pay for gasoline and mow our yard here, well, this backyard, we can go ahead and film your scene like you're saying. So I drove like 6 hours north with a few friends, and we got up there and we mowed their backyard, and then came back the next day, and there was a bunch of people there, and that's where the shots came from, with the lawnmower like doing a wheelie. And there's lots of shots of like just random antique tractors. He has some really eclectic collection there. And that shot with all the tractors coming up over the hillside, they put a piece of plywood on the forklift, and then they drove the forklift out in the field, and then put the forklift all the way up and me out with the front top of the forklift.
Totally safe.
Nice.
It's kind of crazy.
Glad I didn't know you then. If I'd known you were going to do something like that, I probably would have freaked out. I'd call OSHA.
I mean, we literally we probably made this movie for like less than $200.
Wow.
Yeah. Like the most I spent was on that rocket launcher.
Yeah.
The tractor chase though, it's so funny, especially because you've got people in different size mowers. You got some that are more like a riding mower. You've got Taylor, Chauncey's brother, on like this like old John Deere with the really big rear wheels.
It's an Oliver Super 44. Thank you very much. We don't use John Deere's at this point.
It was green. I see a mower and it's green. I just assume it's a John Deere. I'm sorry. We sold John Deere's at Husqvarna's when I worked at the hardware store. Okay, that's all I know. That particular character that Taylor is playing, he's popped up in some like birthday videos and some other things too. That's Taylor's kind of signature character, Floyd, with the hat and the facial expressions and the body language. But it's
He's kind of like a beatnik.
Yeah, but it's as many times as I've seen this movie, every time you get that shot of Taylor during the chase montage, the music's playing in the background, it cuts, and you get this close up of Taylor. He just kind of looks at the screen and lifts his chin like, "Sup?" And it goes back, and I bust a gut every time. So you got Rob going up and kind of slapping him in the face and taking a tree branch and hitting the back of someone's seat, trying to knock him off. You've got Chauncey's dad in this crazy looking wig pushing a push mower. Apparently he has so many DUIs he's not even allowed to drive a mower. He's only allowed to push. And then you get the Dukes of Hazzard homage. It's like you can think it or you can say it. But the guys eventually escape, and we cut to class with Carl, who's just completed telling the class about their adventure. The Bigfoot's on the kind of the table, the front of the class. The teacher is got a clipboard. He's writing notes, and Carl introduces Rob to the class, and we get a nice kind of montage of what happens to their life now that they have found a Bigfoot, and they're lauded with applause and recognition. They get all sorts of awards. We get another cameo from Chauncey. And Chauncey's mom taking pictures, doing what she does best. She did not have to stretch her acting chops at all for that shot. Being a photographer. We find out that they opened a theme park based on their adventures. And there was some competition, but it never quite got to the same esteem. Michael Mosquito.
We had written up like a bunch of different other theme parks, and we were going to make that as just a hilarious little montage, but we just did not have the steam left in us to really make that out the way it should have been.
Yeah. And we get to Rob and Carl enjoying some beers, kind of basking in their glory. They're rich, they're famous. Carl's got a building at the school named after him. And everything's hunky-dory, and they start to walk away. The Bigfoot's standing there holding like a lantern. And as they start to walk away, the Bigfoot drops the lantern and takes off in the funniest run. It's more of a skip and a hop than an actual run. We find out, we go back to Ranger Rick and find out that the fame eventually died down, but now their story is legend among others. Now the NSWA is just a small club for people to get together. But if they want to come back, just tell the Ranger Rick says, just let them know at the gate that he sent you. And that's the end of the movie.
You have to tell them that you believe in Bigfoot.
Oh yes, I do believe in Bigfoot. And then, as Chauncey says, you get the world's slowest credits.
Yes.
But then we get to see Barney, aka Uncle Dave, one more time. Being highly inappropriate, talking to the bartender.
And being very politely asked to leave.
Yes.
That's it.
That was like my favorite line.
I mean, we're obviously laughing at it. We all find it entertaining. I'm a little biased because I know the people involved, but even the first time that he ever showed it to me, we couldn't have been dating, more than probably a couple weeks, a month at most, before you showed me Weekend Assignment, and I didn't run away screaming, so I think that's when he decided I was a keeper. It's one of those movies, though, that we watch it like once a year, maybe a couple times a year. Like when we get together at the holidays, sometimes we'll people come over, we'll sit down and watch it. It's fun to talk about the people, as people change. Some of the older folks that appear in the movie, are no longer with us. since the time that
Mama's still around. She's over 90 something years old. Still going.
Yeah, she's 92. So. So.
Yeah, it was.
Good. But it's just kind of funny to be like, well, that person, that person now has this job, or, this person's now doing this thing, and it's just it's fun to see the faces, and the more I get to meet people, even now, as long as we've been together, there's still people that I've maybe only met once or have never met. So.
It was one of those things where, Chauncey and I would pretty much just were like, we're just talking about making a movie, and we're like, how difficult can it be? Let's just fire the
famous last words.
And boy, did we find out that a lot goes into it. And it was there's a lot of things that we wish we could got the full everything that we're hoping to get into the movie, but we just didn't have time, or we didn't have the budget, we didn't have the actors.
Yeah.
It just showed that but it was a great learning experience, and something that we found out we could actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of patience.
Yeah.
What's even crazier is we shot that movie stereoscopically. Like, that movie should be in 3D, right? We actually filmed that whole thing in 3D, and I have a version here that I can put up that's 3D.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
It was all about, like, at school I was learning that technique, so then I just went ahead and spent the time to learn how to do it for a 45-minute movie to see if I could do it. And that was a lot of work, because it doubled everything in terms of the data processing, left and right.
Yeah.
There was one scene in the chase scene that we never got to do, that even to this day, Matt and I both will stop and think, oh man, I wish we could have done that. You know what I'm talking about, Matt?
Yes. The scene involved a chase down a hill. They're going to come downhill, and then like Robert and Carl, they take like a sharp turn, like they're like on two wheels, and turn, and then everybody else, they all make their quick sharp turn. Meanwhile, there's an old gentleman with like a walker who's sitting there watching all these guys, and he's like waiting for them to go by so he can cross over. And he sees that everybody's gone, so he starts taking the steps across, and then suddenly out of nowhere, one of them giant Little Tykes cars with
the yellow one with the red body and the yellow top.
Yeah. Flying down through there. The guy cannot make the turn, runs into a tree, and the car explodes.
And the old man was going to jump, like, flying out of the way, like the blast.
Yeah.
Like, through me.
Tuck and roll, Grandpa. That was one of the scenes that we really wanted. I just really wanted to get in because it was just kind of like my type of comedy. So.
But I mean, you were making this as a student, so you did have a hard deadline because of the
right.
You had to be turned in to get graded. You actually got graded on this, and you had the premiere. Well, two premieres. You had a private premiere at the school for just family and friends that all came down from the South Bend area. Your parents chartered a bus for the premiere.
Crazy.
Yeah, and then there was another premiere that was open to anybody at the school, which I vaguely remember like seeing signs for, I think. But I was that's before I knew you. So I kind of kept my head down as a student, and my focus was just school, and if I wasn't school, it was work. I'm trying to pay the tuition. So if I had only known.
It was a good choice. You didn't. You should. I'm glad you didn't associate with people like me.
Yeah. Not until after.
There was also a pretty epic movie poster created for that. It's a pretty solid movie poster.
Yeah.
Was it the one that you see at the end?
That's right. Yeah. That was created by my friend Ben Philippi. He's just this amazing Photoshop artist. Even to this day, he makes like children's books and stuff. But he just took a bunch of shots that I gave him from the movie and put that together and put film grain to it. And, even Aaron Gallimore took a variation of it, and his mom made me a T-shirt that has fur coming out of the.
Cool.
Nice. It's hanging up in our living room. I'll take a picture of it and I'll post it on in the show notes or on Facebook or something so people can see it. So it is pretty cool.
I used to work at Matt and I both worked at a park, and we like Matt had moved on after the movie was over, but I was still working at the park, and I had invited all the parks, like the office ladies, to go see it, and they made me a cake, and I have a picture of it, and on the cake they have a lawnmower pulling a little red wagon with a Sasquatch made out of icing.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's been a number of years since you went on this endeavor and made this movie as a student on a very shoestring budget. And
it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it premiered December 8th, 2008.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years.
Wow.
It couldn't have been 2008. It would have had to been 2007. Because you and I were together in 2008. I would.
Yeah.
It would
have been 2007. It would have been.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's been over 10.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But I mean, you learned a lot, and your skills and everything have grown since then. And we'll get to Matt's current project here in a minute, but let's talk sequel. Because the entire time that I've been around, it's been thrown, every now and then the conversation will come up, Chauncey will come up with something that would be hilarious for the sequel, or Matt will come up with something, you'll text it Chauncey, and I hold Chauncey laugh, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? And he's like, oh, Matt just sent me this, an idea for a sequel, so.
So now, is the Sasquatch alive, or did they kill him?
Sasquatch got away.
What was happening? We don't know much about. Right. We don't know much about Sasquatch, in terms of how they behave. We just see them, in little clips of video. So the idea is that they, quote unquote, captured a Sasquatch, but it was just faking because it knew it was caught. And then when the time was right, it just, stopped faking and took off.
Gotcha. So it played possum.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's been some ideas thrown out there about other cryptozoological creatures that he's going to be chasing after, involving a legend of Michigan that we all know about. And I actually started writing a little bit of it, but I've never gotten back to it.
Is that the legend that there just so happens to be a song about?
Oh, there is a song about said.
I do believe I know what you're talking about.
He walked on just 2 paws. Just Google that.
Yeah.
The Patterson film.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like you guys will occasionally bring up the idea of a sequel, but then we've also thrown around the idea of actually remaking this movie with a higher budget and more time and better equipment and better skills. But I kind of I think the original just kind of needs to stay where it is because it's a good time capsule of a lot of those people. Like I said, some of those people aren't with us anymore, so you wouldn't be able to have the exact same cast.
If there is anything like that, it's like really amazing about the Weekend Assignment film. It's the fact that like at one point in time, every single person that, I mean, not every single, but I'll say just a very large grouping of like most of the circle of friends that Matt and I had at the time were generally in that movie. I mean, not everybody's there, but we got as many in there as we could that made sense and when they were available. And then, like you were saying, like there's a couple scenes in there, like the bar scene, where if you look at the bar, the bartender's passed away. The lady sitting on the right was my aunt. She's passed away. There's the woman sitting in the middle. She was my neighbor, passed away. And the only one that's still around is Matt's dad on the end, far on the end. So, you know, it's kind of cool to see them all together in one spot like that. And then Piggy, you know, he's gone. And then, and Carl Johnson, he was T-Bone, you know, and that's like one of the things when he died, they actually asked me to give them footage from Weekend Assignment to put in a video loop at a funeral. So it's kind of cool. But then in terms of a sequel, the way I see it is like Weekend Assignment was filmed for two reasons. Like Matt and I just kind of wanted to make a movie to see if we could do it. And then me, I needed to push myself and see if I could do like a high-end scale stereoscopic production, see if I could, you know, push myself with a newer technology. And I think that same concept could be applied if we ever did build a sequel, which is like VR filmmaking is like becoming a thing. And it's like, how crazy would it be to produce feature film in virtual reality about, you know, some crazy story like this, but, you know, do it in VR. So it's been spinning around in my head for a little while, but I don't know if we'll be able to muster it anytime soon, but I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. We thought about that like quite a while ago, you know, like kind of like a living, breathing town where you can move around in and have counteraction with people, and it's be drawn out like a movie.
Yeah, instead of a linear storytelling, it'd be more like a spatial kind of thing, like a video game.
Come visit Modecville. Oh my. Well, eventually. It may not be anytime soon, but eventually. So, and in the meantime, yeah.
I think we did it right with last thing. I think we did it right with the characters though, because even if I go through my old hard drives, there are backstories for every person in that bar, and every little shot of a person on the screen. We gave them a name and a backstory that's at least a paragraph long. And
nice.
That made a good story.
You're like George Lucas. Every character's got a name, at least. Well, in the meantime, you know, Chauncey's obviously keeping himself busy with doing his VR development. You know, if you've been to, you know, Starbase India last year, the India Disney Meet this year, you saw the hot air balloon project. But Matt, on the other hand, is working on another movie. So, Matt, tell us about your current project.
Current project, we are working. We're actually pretty close to finishing right now. It's a Western themed movie based in about the 1870s. It's a movie about the character. He was a Civil War veteran who was in Anderson prison camp down in Georgia, and lost one of his good friends there, who was killed by camp raiders, the other prisoners within the camp who would prey on the fresh fish, as you will. And he said what he saw. He just rolled over before he got, you know, clocked. He just saw a big hairy creature that crushed his friend to death, and so he's convinced that there's a large shadowy monster out among the landscape that he's chasing after and has sworn a vengeance to, and so it kind of takes him out out west after the war, and he runs into the monster every now and then. Every time he runs into the monster, it causes havoc, which people believe that he's actually the one causing the havoc, and he's convinced that it's the monster, and he's trying to stop the monster from causing all this havoc. And so we've been filming that since like May. We're getting wrapped it up probably in the next week or two, and we're hoping to have it. We're hoping to debut it on December 15th. And the movie is called Mutiny on the Gast.
That's awesome.
Cool.
So you're gonna have this premiered at like a place?
Yeah, we're one of the guys that we. What's that?
You're good.
One of the guys that we was in the film. He has a friend at a movie theater, and so we're hoping to try to get an actual movie theater rented out to premiere it. But if
Cool.
not,
Nice.
we're gonna do it probably at a like a party room at one of the local restaurant.
Okay, Rachel, we're going up on December 15th.
Yeah,
I'll pencil it in.
we've shown quite a few people the trailer for the film, and we've gotten lots of good reviews about the trailer. I mean, it's drummed up some interest, and people who've known that we've been doing this all summer long got a chance to look at it and go, oh, I don't think this thing's going to suck as bad as we thought. So yeah, I mean, it's we got some action in there. I got to do a little bit of my pyrotechnics again and blow up a campfire. And it involves when you actually get to see the monster, it's going to be a very familiar sight. So
Hint,
yeah,
hint.
yes. So yeah, that's Buddy and I just we got together and decided that we wanted to start making some of these short movies, and this was our first one that we decided to kind of get our teeth sunk into and kind of get our feet wet and figure out what we need to how to do, just basically how to do it, really, how to get our shots set up, and the angles, how to get the lighting so that it works well with everything, and really editing. And we've been kind of teaching ourselves things like After Effects and Premiere and stuff like that. And so it's kind of the movie. We want it to look pretty good, but it's a learning experience. So some things are going to be a little bit out of sorts, but so far, what I've seen, what we've got edited down, it looks pretty good.
And like, I visited Matt at one point in the middle of this, like in the late summer, like July sometime, and he showed me he had us at the time. He built a set at his house of a saloon, and he had like built a bar and like put all this wood up, and he built a swing door, and just like what you would expect for a saloon from the 1870s. And he invested in a whole bunch of Western costuming and props and stuff, and even has blanks and a real Colt 45 with blanks, and then also a prop one that he can pull out that looks exactly like a real one, and not be using a real gun and all that, freaking out the actors. And it's pretty amazing that the level they've gone to compared to what we did with Weekend Assignment. So I can't wait to come check it out.
Yeah. We definitely had a little bit more of a budget on this one, but I'd say both Mike and I probably spent $3,000, I'd say, on props and filming gear and stuff like that. So it's mostly been on filming gear because we got another movie coming up that we're gonna finish right after this. Then we got another one in the works that so we're going to be kind of boom, 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 going after these things. And right now we just got to finish strong on this one, and then we can work on our others.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'll
Yep.
make sure to. I'll put a link to the trailer.
Check the trailer out.
In the show notes for folks.
Yeah, we'll get some more social media presence so that we can kind of share more of the story and some of the ideas that we're working on, some of the films that we're going to hopefully pursue and we're pretty excited about it.
Very cool, man.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
Started out making one movie, and here you are.
Yeah, I've actually, this one we had another movie that we didn't quite finish, and that's what we're gonna finish up after this one. We're gonna go back. It's gonna be kind of like we're gonna finish another movie, so it's another interesting movie.
Yeah,
I
Matt's
would
gonna keep
expect
building
nothing less.
Matt's gonna keep building his filmmaking skills and writing skills, and I'm gonna eventually get around to having enough capability and equipment to do a 4D VR film, and we'll put together some short films at least. If you want to talk about Weekend Assignment 2 in VR 4D, I don't know, we'll talk about it, but definitely some short films eventually.
Yeah.
Yep,
I'm ready
You're
for
ready
my
to make-
cameo.
All right.
Well, thanks for having us on, Rach, and talking about this. And Brittany,
Absolutely.
thanks for gritting your teeth and watching our silly movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I did too.
We're easily amused.
Well, thank you so much.
So, well, put relevant links to everything in the show notes so people can find it. And of course, show notes can always be found on our website, which is the5ishfangirls.com. So you can find
To
links
entice people to show notes, to entice everyone to actually go check it out. I'll put
Yes.
the blooper reel for week.
Okay. Even better. We'll have all sorts of stuff for people to look at. If we haven't scared you away by now, we'll give you something really scary. And you thought Jason Voorhees was the scariest thing this Halloween. Forget Freddy Krueger, forget Jason, forget Michael Myers. We had the scariest thing on the block. So yeah, go check out the links to everything in our show notes on the website, the5ishfangirls.com. From there, we will point everybody to everything they need to see. So on links to, of course, all our social media and anything too, and always post stuff on the Facebook. So thank you, gentlemen, for
Thank you for having us.
So, and unless anyone has anything else, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Betham saying goodnight.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Time to go make that recipe with those taco sauce packets.
listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at thefivishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review on iTunes. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Five-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.